Imagine waking up and choosing violence, not as a metaphor, but as a biological necessity. Most multiverse movies treat the concept of infinite realities like a cosmic playground or a visual effects reel for a Super Bowl ad. But in Redux Redux, the McManus Brothers treat the multiverse like a drug den. It's a gritty, oil-stained, low-rent purgatory where the only thing cheaper than human life is the cost of the machine used to end it. This isn't a save the world epic, it's a destroy my soul character study disguised as a guerrilla sci-fi thriller. There is a specific energy to this film we haven't seen in the genre for a long time. It's scrappy. If you remember the first Terminator, that raw 1984 sense of urgency where every dollar was clearly on the screen and the stakes felt life and death because the lighting was practical and the sweat was real. That's the DNA here. The aesthetic is refreshingly analog. While Marvel or DC would give you a glowing CGI portal, the McManus Brothers gives you a multiverse machine that looks like a DIY steampunk coffin crossbred with a discarded refrigerator. It's tactile, it's heavy, it feels like something you'd find in a Penske box truck parked in an alleyway, which, according to the production, isn't far from the truth. The cinematography leans into a naturalistic, almost suffocating realism, using tiny continuity shifts to signal the drift between the worlds rather than grand sweeping visual effects vistas. And we are currently in a state of multiverse fatigue. We've seen the concept milked dry by every major studio to justify cameos and fan service. Does Redux Redux manage to cut through the noise, or is it just another loop in a tired subgenre? By the end of this, I'll let you know if this is a high concept masterpiece or just a well-acted exercise in repetition. The film hits the ground sprinting. We meet Irene Kelly, played with the serrated edge by Michaela McManus. Irene isn't a scientist and she isn't a hero. She's a grieving mother who has found a way to bridge the gap between realities for one singular bloody purpose: to kill Neville, the man who murdered her daughter. The movie doesn't waste 30 minutes on the incident. It starts in the middle of the cycle. We see Irene executing Neville in a dozen different ways across a dozen different timelines. It's a montage of catharsis that quickly curdles into something much darker. With every kill, Irene isn't finding peace, she's becoming addicted to the act. She's a ghost haunting her own life, drifting through dimensions where she seeks out the same man to hook up with in every reality just to feel a shred of normalcy before going back to the hunt. But the movie truly flips the script when Irene intersects with Mia, played by Stella Marcus. She is simply Neville's next intended victim who hasn't been killed yet in this specific universe. When Irene tries to explain the science of the machine, Mia shuts her down instantly. She acts as if she already understands the mechanics. A perfect nod to an audience that is already well versed in temporal tropes and has zero patience for exposition dumps. The stakes aren't about stopping a paradox, they're about whether Irene can stop herself before there's nothing left of her humanity to bring back home. Before we dissect the meat of the film, we have to talk about how this thing even exists. The McManus brothers have a reputation for being the ultimate get-it-done filmmakers. Redux Redux premiered at South by Southwest 2025, and the stories coming out of that screening were legendary. The budget was essentially pocket change and a dream. The multiverse machine that looks like a steampunk refrigerator, that wasn't a stylistic choice made in a boardroom, that was necessity. The directors literally joked that they built a high-concept sci-fi movie out of a Penske box truck and DIY coffin. It's the kind of production lore we live for. The guerrilla spirit where you don't wait for a $100 million check to tell you a story about the collapse of the soul. And with every different universe, nothing is like super alien. They went with a more naturalistic approach. They wanted the difference for a mug to be the wrong color and not a purple sky. Little subtle changes every time she takes a trip to a different universe. The film is a masterclass in doing a lot with a little. It's part road trip, part revenge thriller with the sci-fi twist. The clunky refrigerator-like time machine starting like an old engine that's going to die at any moment. The gore is practical, wet, and impactful. When Irene kills, you feel the weight of it. It's not a clean digital disintegration. It's a messy analog tragedy. Michaela McManus is the engine of this movie. She carries a look of perpetual exhaustion that makes her feel like a ghost inhabiting her own skin. Her chemistry with Stella Marcus is the emotional anchor. There's a specific sequence where the movie actually shifts its point of view to follow Mia instead of Irene for a section. And I think it's a stroke of genius, giving her the much needed character development while kind of giving us a break from Irene. It gives us a window into the collateral damage of Irene's obsession, showing us the victim as a person rather than just a plot point. Now, it's not all perfect. The first half is an absolute adrenaline shot, chaotic, unpredictable, and fast. But the second half struggles to maintain that same high. There's a specific section involving interdimensional transporters that feels like a detour into unnecessary world building. It slows down the momentum. It felt a little unnecessary. While the first half feels like a fever dream almost, the middle part starts to feel a bit more like a standard sci-fi procedural. While the opening is a wild ride, the lead up to the finale starts to hit some fairly predictable beats. After such a scrappy start, seeing it all fall into some familiar genre tropes in the second act is a bit of a letdown. It doesn't ruin the experience by any means, but it does make you wish they had kept the same anything can happen energy all the way through. But I will have a ending explain video coming out for this movie, so keep an eye on it, or maybe just click on it at the end of this video. Redux Redux is for viewers who miss the era of mid-budget, high-concept sci-fi. It's for the people who prefer the Terminator 2 Endgame. If you want a polished, easy-to-digest multiverse romp, this might be too gritty for you. But if you want a movie that treats revenge like a terminal illness, this is a must-watch. It's scrappy, it's well-made, and it proves that you don't need $1 billion to make a movie that feels big. Despite a slightly saggy middle and some predictable plotting towards the end, the performances and the atmosphere carry it across the finish line. So I'm giving Redux Redux a 4 out of 5. But did you see Redux? What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Check out my ending explained to Redux Redux here by my head, and YouTube thinks you'll like this other video by my head. And I'll see you next time.